Hey everyone, hi, it's me, Jes. Today and right now for this panel, we are talking to some of our original creators on WEBTOON. So I'm gonna pass the mic to each of our creators and they can introduce themselves.
I'll start. Hi,
Okay.
I'm Ingrid Ochoa. I'm the creator of The Kismet, and I'm so excited to be here.
My name is Sophia, and I'm the creator of Love Being On WEBTOON.
I'm Wendy. I'm the creator of Castle Swimmer.
Cool. Thank you for introducing yourself. So basically for this panel, we went onto our socials and we asked people to submit questions to our original creators, and we gathered up a good amount of questions for this specific panel. And at the end of the panel, if there is time, we'll grab some questions from the chat. So let's get started. The first question is, what motivated you to start a series on WEBTOON?
Actually, when I was really little, I was so used to watching anime and reading mangas and stuff, even like after school. And I just thought what it would be like to start something on my own, you know? It just goes way back in my childhood, I guess. But I'm used to reading a lot of romances, and I get a lot of second lead syndromes. And it would be cool if I could take control of that situation. So I guess that's kind of like how I started. And I actually started reading WEBTOON from Neighbor WEBTOON, the Korean one. And I didn't find about Line WEBTOON until like my high school year. And I didn't know you can upload your own stuff. So that's kind of like how I got started on it.
I think it was pretty similar for me as well. It's always been this burning passion within me where I was like, I just need to get my stories out, and I don't know how to write a book, and I don't know how to make a film of it. But you know, when you discover how to draw, you're like, okay, you can control everything this way. And then I discovered WEBTOON through my little sister who would read the comics there, and I was like, anyone can post their stuff there. So I was like,
Right.
I have to do that. So it's pretty cool of WEBTOON to let us all post our stuff there.
Yeah, pretty much the same for me. I always made comics, and I can steal your answers. I always made comics, and I think when I was 16, I thought I was going to be a mangaka and like move to Japan and learn Japanese, but that didn't.
Ooh.
More realistically,
It's never too late.
I just started posting stuff online. I just made like webcomics, like old school, when they just post like a single page weekly on a website.
Oh, that's cool.
And then I just randomly I posted on WEBTOON, and they offered me a job. So I was like, I make webtoons now.
Very cool. Thank you for telling us what got you started in your passion. So another question somebody asked is, how do you get inspired every week? How do you find motivation to keep making episodes for your series?
Oh, well, for me, I kind of get like all worn down after I submit each episode. So after that, I take my time to read other novels and comics and stuff. And then if it gets my like heart thumping, that's kind of like what gets me to make more for myself, you know?
Yeah, I think it's the same for me. I feel like maybe people think we're inspired all the time and we just like keep going and going. But I think the reality is we all kind of like have really hard days sometimes, especially when you're on like a weekly schedule where you have to like always be working. And I think, it's tough. It's tough, but it's really rewarding in the end. And I feel like when you see everything you're creating, it just kind of makes you feel like, okay, I need to complete what I'm making. And I don't know. I also go back and like read other webtoons that have inspired me in the past and like other things like that, and read lots of books and things that refresh me. And I'm like, okay, yeah, let's keep going. But the reality is there's like tough days, right?
Yeah, for sure. Definitely having a due date at the end of the week is great motivation. Mm-hmm. Like when I have buffer episodes and leeway, I tend to kind of not get stuff done as efficiently. But if there's a due date at the end of the week, I always get that episode done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can relate to that. I just ran out of buffer episodes not that long ago, and now I'm on a weekly basis.
That's been me the whole time. Now I'm on my break between my new season, and it's a lot harder to make the episodes when I don't have this like hard deadline. So, but yeah, it's tough. You just have to make yourself do it in the end, because once you start doing it, then you're like, oh yeah, this is not as intense as I thought it was going to be. And you remember why you love it.
For sure. So the next question is comic making your full-time job? If not, what else do you do? Or if it is, your full-time job, what did you do before WEBTOON?
Well, actually, it is a full-time for me now, but I used to be a student and I just recently graduated this year. Before then, it was kind of like hard to balance between my school time and my making WEBTOON time, but that was before I actually started launching it for real. So I guess I kind of managed it somehow. It feels good to graduate. I have my free time to work on whatever I want now. So there we have it.
Yeah, same for me. When I started in Discover back in the day, it was called Discover. Now it's called Canvas. But when I started, I was going to school and full time, and then I had a job, and then I would do this at night. And then after I graduated, I got a full-time job, so I would go to the office all day. And then it's when I officially became, started working for WEBTOON. But for a really long time, I had another job, and it was very intense for me. And I don't know when I slept. I never did. I still never do. But yeah, that's me.
I was a waitress for 6 years, and I made comics on the sides. And then when I finally got picked up by WEBTOON, as soon as they sent me that email, I was like, thank God, and I quit my job.
Yeah, that's the smart thing to do. I stayed in my job for like a year when I was doing both, and I was like, I don't know why I'm doing this to myself. But so I think one thing with this question is a lot of people are like, will I ever get there, to like be able to make this my full-time job? And I think it's the time that you put into it is what you get out of it, right? Like if you put in the deserved time, then you can make this your full-time job. And I think that was the fear for me for a really long time, where I was like, can I actually do this? So yeah, just put the time into it.
And nowadays there's lots of different methods that creators can make a living through their comic, even if they aren't so.
The next question is, how do you feel when you see fan art from your series?
Oh yeah, they're so cute. Like it kind of puts me into their perspective of how they see my story and what they're getting out of it. So every time I get a fan art, it's just like, yeah, I don't know how to put it into words.
Exactly. It just makes you feel like sometimes you see some really cool ones, or whichever ones you see, it's like someone else has this perspective of your comic, like, or like seeing it in different styles. It's just so cool. It makes me feel so cool that my characters feel more real, I guess,
Yeah, it's like other people have access to your characters, and it just feels more three-dimensional in a way, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm like so used to just having them in my own head, and now other people know it, and it just feels more real that people have access to my WEBTOON,
Yeah, fan art is one of those things where like every time you get fan art, it's like you never get used to it. It's like, I want to draw my character. Oh my God.
Yeah, I want to print all of them and put them all over my wall someday. So thanks for everyone who makes the fan arts. It's always cool to receive them. Mm-hmm.
So for the next question, somebody asked, what are your time management methods?
I don't know if I can say I have one, but I have to just put the deadline in my mind. That's kind of like what gets me going. And I was so used to staying up, like pulling up all-nighters, but I'm trying to like change that. So I work during the day. Like I try to make an actual time schedule where I work. Like, like for these few days, I'm gonna do my line art, and like these few days, I'm gonna work on the shading and backgrounds and etc. But it's really kind of hard to keep a time management unless you have a set on deadline. So I think it's good to keep a mental deadlines for yourself to keep up with. I don't know how else I can explain it because I don't really have a time management method.
Same. I just saw my editor Bree said in the comments, I see you, Ingrid. She knows I struggle with this. I feel like, well, I don't know if it's a common thing, but it's tough when you have doing creative work is difficult to be on a deadline for me, at least, because I'm like, I just want to keep, imagining my story to the best of where it can get. And I feel like by the time I reach that point, sometimes I'm like, oh, now I have to make it. Okay. And it's tough. I do a lot of all-nighters still. Someday I'll be as good as Sophia. And
I mean, I can't say anything because I still do for the last 2 days on my deadline, but it's gotten a little bit better. But
yeah,
I don't know.
Same. I'm never on a schedule. Just never. I have a schedule and I just am never on it. I don't know. I'm always behind.
Yeah, it's tough. And I don't know. I think it's a pretty common thing, and I'm hoping that once you have, well, for me, once I have everything established that's happening in the story, then I feel more comfortable like jumping into the episodes. But because I'm a very person that writes, like, I guess we all write week to week. You have to like decide all the final dialogue and everything week by week, and I feel like that sometimes ends up changing stuff. But yeah, I don't know, maybe it'll always be a struggle. I don't have any advice on this.
Just the way it is.
This is just the reality, and you just have to learn to deal with it and be okay with it, I guess.
Yeah, time management is definitely a struggle for a lot of people, myself included. So another question somebody had was, any tips on art? Specifically, how do you draw hands and feet?
Oh, I still don't know how to draw feet, so I try to avoid it as much as possible. But I try to look at real life reference, like maybe my own hands or my sister's. But for hands, I try to focus more on the joints to see where they like bend and stuff. And I think that's kind of how I got myself used to drawing more of those body parts.
Yeah, I love reference. I just take pictures of my hands and all angles, and I just copy them. So my family, when they see my stories, they're like, hey, those are your hands everywhere. Yeah, all the guys have my hands. So yeah, reference. I agree with Sophia. Mm-hmm.
I made a comic about mermaids so that I would never have to draw feet ever in my life.
That's pretty smart, to be honest.
And for hands, I do the same. I take pictures of my hands and just draw over them. So if you see Siren or Kappa with a particularly nice looking hand, that is my hand.
Okay, cool. The next question. If each of your characters met each other, who would be friends with who?
Huh.
I think if our characters met, they could all relate on having wild love-related and romance-related difficulties, and that would be a lot of the discussions.
I think so. They will all have something to talk about there.
Yeah, definitely. They would all know the hurt of love and be able to connect over that. They would definitely have to meet at the beach to meet Wendy's characters, though.
Yeah,
yes.
Like how would they meet?
A beach day, and then Sophia's characters can help all of us see who can actually end up with who.
Okay. It's to work out if they met.
Yeah.
That was a fun question. Whoever asked that question, good question. Another question somebody asked, what would be your advice to help new Canvas creators?
Well, something I noticed is I know a lot of people can be scared to upload their stories online, because I kind of did before I uploaded my first story to Discover or Canvas now. But I don't think you should be really scared of sharing your story in general, because I'm pretty sure a lot of people do have stories that they want to share for a long time, and if they share it, then there's going to be some people, like other people, who are going to be inspired by your own story, and they can make their own story from some sort of chain event. I just think you should go with it and not really care about what people think about you, like judging your story and stuff, which I still kind of do, but I just want to say, like, just kind of go with it.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's the same for me because I don't know why I just always put my stuff out there, even though I didn't get any readers or anything. But and also like try like because we all have probably a bunch of stories, right, that we've started here and there and there and there. And I would always submit a bunch of different. I would start one and then I would see it wouldn't pick up, and then, well, I don't know if this is good advice because I'm like, you want to finish something, right? But this is how it worked for me, where I like started one and I would see like, this isn't it, and then I would start another one. And then finally, when I did the Kismet, it just like immediately, I feel like connected with people. And I tried to analyze like the reasons why. And I was like, okay, it has like a strong beginning. It has like these things. And at that time, I started thinking like, okay, so what are successful people doing? And I would go into like the top creators and I would check their webtoons and I would be like, okay, how are their beginning episodes? Like what do they have that is special? And I would always notice like, what are they doing to get them here on the top? And I would like try to copy all those things. Like they have regular schedules, they upload it frequently, like, a bunch of things. And I just started doing those things. I started uploading frequently. I started, just doing all these things. And that's where I feel like it kind of clicked for me that, anyone can do it when you follow what you see as being successful. So
I think when you first start posting comics, it's easy to like stress too much over numbers and how well it's doing, especially when you're first starting out. You really want it to do well, but you can't really ever control the numbers or the amount of likes or the comments. So I think you should kind of look inwards and focus on the things you do have control over, like improving as an artist and a storyteller, and trying new things and seeing what works. And every time I would make a comic, I would always like have a specific art style that I would kind of be stuck in. I'd always draw like hands a certain way, faces a certain way, noses a certain way. And as soon as I'd start a comic, I'd be like, all right, this is my art style. And I do not try anything new from this style. And that would always kind of stunt my growth as an artist. So I would say it's okay to have an art style, but also experiment and try new stuff as much as you can, use references, just try something different if you want to.
Yeah. I think the best advice too is to just go for it with like combined with what we're all saying, because I feel like we at some point decided we're just gonna do it and have fun with it and not really care what people say, because this is your project, this is your baby, this is what you've been thinking. So yeah, I think it's
right.
Just go for it.
Yep, just do it. So the next few questions are specific to specific creators. So for Ingrid, there was a question: is the Kisbat inspired by anything?
Definitely. A lot of the characters are very real in my life, and I just stole their identities and put them in my comic, kind of. But really, I think most of the main characters are inspired by people I know in real life, and none of the specific incidents, like I never met anyone in the subway that I tried to kiss, like not really, but just a lot of the personalities and stuff I think I grabbed. And so yeah, a lot of those things are very real in my life. Not the storyline exactly, but yeah, it's good to get inspiration from real life. Feels more authentic, I guess.
For sure. For Wendy, where did you get the idea for Castle Swimmer? Any particular inspiration?
Yes. I was inspired by Kingdom Hearts 1, the Atlantica section where you play as Sora, who's got a Keyblade, and he goes swimming around with Ariel. That just gave me the idea to make a mermaid comic. So I have Kingdom Hearts to thank for my career and all my success in life. Thank you, Kingdom Hearts.
And then for Sophia, This is a question that a creator asked. Since your series centers around the red string of fate, do you also believe in soulmates?
Okay, that's kind of like a difficult question for me to answer. I guess it's a yes and also a no, because from what I've seen around, I do think some people are made for each other, like either romantically or platonically. But I also feel like you have to kind of work up to get to where you are, to kind of like understand each other and create a special bond, you know? So it's kind of complicated. I don't know. It's like yes and a no.
Good answer. It is complicated. Life is complicated. Okay, so now we're at the portion that I can, if you want to put your questions in the chat, we will start answering some of them. There were a few. Lynn's asked, how do you look at old episodes without the feeling of extreme cringe or wanting to burn it all?
I don't. I can't.
Same. I do not look at old episodes.
Yeah, my dream is to someday redo the whole thing, but we'll all know it's never gonna happen.
Oh yes, I feel the same way. But sometimes I like forcing myself to look at it so I can avoid plot holes. But yeah, if I can, I just avoid it all like completely.
Yeah, I mean the pretty thing, the cool thing, I guess, is that you can look back and see how far you've come, because you don't notice it once you're like doing it every day, but then you look back and you're like, I thought this was amazing. But yeah, it's just cool to look back sometimes, but it's very cringe as well.
Yeah, I remember being so like proud of it, like when I made it back then. But then I in the future, I don't know like how I managed to write this, and yeah, no.
There was a question about art assistants. They want to know if anyone uses art assistants, what do they do, and how do you find them? Things that you can disclose, I guess, basically. They, just information about art assistants and just in general. I
guess I technically have one because it's my sister, but I guess it's just me for now, but there were many times where I was thinking about I needed an assistant, but yeah, it's just me and my sister. So if you have someone like that near you, I think you should get them to do it, because they're pretty, like, they can be pretty useful, because she shades for me while I do the line and the flat colors.
Yeah, for me, I had my sister and another friend do all the flat colors for like a really long time, maybe like for like a year. And then finally I was like, I'm just gonna try and see if I can get, people who can actually color the whole thing. And I was always scared, because I'm like, what if, can they really like keep the aesthetic and make it look the same? So I didn't want it to like suddenly change, but I mean, it kind of changed a little bit for the better, because I got really cool colorists. So I do have a few assistants. Shout out to all of them. They're amazing, and they really help with the process of making everything a lot faster. So if you have the means, or if you have a sister that's really great, will help you. Yeah, I think it's cool to get the help, because as much as we think we can do everything, we can't.
Yeah, I recruited my assistants on Twitter. They were like artists that I knew were kind of looking for side work, and they were in the same boat as me. They've got comics they work on, and so since I knew them, it kind of worked out. And there was like a little bit of a process of kind of like figuring out how you work with each other, but definitely recommend it if you have weekly deadlines and you're able to have assistants.
Somebody very specifically asked, how do you balance work and creating your comic? But we kind of talked over that a little bit, but like specifically Sophia, somebody was asking, how did you manage school and creating a comic?
Okay. For that, I use a split screen where I would pull up a lecture, because this is specifically talking about the COVID time, where we were just like forced to stay at home and everything was online. But what I would do is I would put up a lecture on the side and draw while listening to the lecture. It can be efficient if you're like good at multitasking, but it's really not the best idea if you can't, like, if you're not really good at focusing on two things at once, because I ended up having to listen to the lecture over again that day. But yeah, that's like a method I would use.
Cool. Thank you for giving your insight on that. And then I think we have time for one more question. And I like this question. Somebody said, what's your favorite part about being an originals creator?
I guess it would be like I really get to see a lot of, I'm going to just see like the comments. And I guess when I was in Canvas, I didn't really have much of those, but I feel like as an original, there is definitely more exposure for sure. And I can see people's comment and I can kind of try to see like how I can improve my story from there, from taking their opinions on each episode and all.
Yeah, same. I think that's always fun to get to see all the comments and just the exposure. I think it's just so cool to be part of the Webtoon team. And so people ask me and be like, where do you work? And I'm like, Webtoon! And it's just so fun because it's been my dream for a really long time. And I've been reading Webtoons for forever. And I never really imagined that, this would be my reality. And if you put in the time, it can become your dream come true. It's just so cool. I love the community of Webtoon. It's so fun. I love it.
Yeah, same. It's just a dream job. I never get tired of it. Even though it's really difficult, it's
Yeah.
For sure. Well, that's all the time we have today. It's a little bit past the end of this session. Thank you so much to all of you for joining and talking about your experiences today with us and the creators.
Thank you. This was really fun to be a part of. It's a really fun event.
Yeah, thank you guys.